Joining us now is Attorney General from Louisiana, Jeff Landry. He was at the Supreme Court during oral arguments, and the Honorable Robert Henneke, General Counsel, Executive Director at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and the lead counsel for the plaintiffs in both cases. And he represents 5 Texas staffing agencies that sued OSHA over the mandate and obtained a first-in-the-nation stay in the Fifth Circuit. Gentlemen, take a bow. You both did a great job. Thank you for your hard work. Robert, we'll start with you. Your take on the ruling and what this means, because Joe Biden is now out there saying that states should ignore the high court's ruling.
Well, that's a lawless pronouncement. And, Sean, it's such a privilege to be with you. Also glad to be joining my friend Jeff Landry in celebrating yesterday's milestone victory, which not just stopped the private vax mandate from the Biden administration, but let's reflect that this was going to impact over 80 million Americans who were going to be subject to this unlawful vaccine mandate, that the Biden administration has invested nearly a quarter of its administration so far in terms of promoting and seeking to enforce. So a milestone victory yesterday and a coalition effort. I mean, with credit to the state attorneys general across the nation and all the private parties that came together to fight this with one voice. Yesterday was the right outcome, but in some ways still leaves the insistence by the Biden administration that they have the power to do this, albeit in a different way, unresolved and part of the war to be fought and continue to be fought against this kind of tyranny.
Yeah. And what's your take, Attorney General Landry?
Well, first of all, Sean, thank you for giving me some time. I definitely want to thank the Texas Policy Institute and the Pelican Institute here in Louisiana. I think one of the things that really stood out in the OSHA case were the number of actual plaintiffs, the number of businesses that went out there and actually joined attorneys generals from around the country in opposing this particular mandate. I think that I don't know that Americans understand how close we came to basically an unbridled federal government that could reach into our lives at any moment. I mean, if both of these mandates had been upheld by this court, the question is there a limitation to the federal government's reach? I mean, because what these mandates do is they mandate a medical procedure on a person by coercing them with their livelihood, right? So in other words, if you say no, they say, okay, well, we just take your job away. I mean, think about the breadth of that in the United States of America under our Constitution.
Well, I look at this in the 6-3 ruling. Let me ask both of you about part 2 of this ruling as it relates to hospital workers and facilities that receive Medicare, Medicaid money. What's your take on that, Robert Henneke?
The Medicare healthcare worker decision is going to be a disaster, and I disagree with it. And here, Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Kavanaugh flipping sides to join with the liberals was the wrong outcome. I'm really fearful of what this is going to do.
By the way, Kavanaugh's getting torched for doing it. I mean, they are furious.
Appropriately so. I mean, which Brett Kavanaugh are we talking about here when 2 cases are decided in opposite ways? But if you look at the percentage of healthcare workers who are front and center at this, let's say they're the most educated people that are out there about what COVID looks like. If these individuals who have been caring for America for 2 years have chosen that they do not want to take the vaccine, they have every right to do so. But if you eliminate the 10 or 15 or 20% of the healthcare workforce that is currently not vaccinated here in the next couple of weeks, it's not just going to be disruptive to nursing homes and hospitals and assisted living facilities. It's going to be dangerous and potentially life-threatening when we have staffing shortages, especially at the time that you have high rates of illness because of the winter months. So the Supreme Court got it wrong, and I think that we're going to see here in short order the dangerous effects of that outcome.
Yeah. Your take, Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry.
I agree as well. And, we forget about the whole class of medical professionals who had contracted the virus before there was a vaccine because they were taking care of COVID patients. And then, have natural immunity. You know, it's like for 50 years, doctors have basically talked about the benefits of natural immunity, and in 12 months, we basically have thrown it completely out the door. I think this is a case of the court giveth and the court now taketh away, and it's unfortunate to see the chief basically play politics with this, and why Kavanaugh joined him. Because, again, if you look at prior opinions by both the chief and Kavanaugh, even when he was on the D.C. circuit, he was someone who believed in limiting the ability of the administrative state and the agencies. This was the court's chance to strike a very fatal blow in doing just that and bringing the federal government back in line with the Constitution. And what they did, they split the baby on us. And it's unfortunate, and I agree, it's going to have some impact.
Quick break. We'll come back more with the Honorable Robert Henneke, General Counsel. He's the guy that argued this whole case. And Attorney General of Louisiana, Jeff Landry. He was in the Supreme Court for all the oral arguments on the vaccine mandate decision that came down. But we continue with Robert Henneke, General Counsel, Executive Director, Texas Public Policy Foundation, Attorney General of Louisiana, Jeff Landry. Both played a big role in yesterday's Supreme Court decision on vaccine mandates. Let me ask you both this question, because there are cities like New York or states like New York that are not going to adhere to the Supreme Court ruling. General Electric instantly dropped the requirements earlier today, which I was glad to see. So what does that mean for people that live in cities where they don't care about the Supreme Court ruling and they're making up their own rules?
Well, here, if you don't mind, I'll go first on this. Here's something that is important to remember. And Sean, I'm sure your listeners and many may not like what I'm about to say, but I think I speak the truth as it relates to the law. In these pandemics and in these situations, the governmental structure is supposed to be inverted, right? And so basically states and locals share the greatest amount of power. Why? Because they govern closest to the people. And so if the state of New York imposes a mandate, a vaccine mandate, they may or may not be able to do that based upon the state constitution and their state statutes. What this case did, what the Supreme Court said, basically said that OSHA, and at least when it comes to this federal agency, is not able to apply that. That's why I think
So you think that people in these states might be able to challenge based on the Supreme Court ruling? Is that a fair assumption?
I don't think this ruling, I think it's like apples and oranges. I think if a state basically enacts some sort of vaccine mandate, their challenges have to be done in regards to what those specific, the Constitution of those states allow them to do in these particular situations.
Last 30 seconds, Robert Henneke, we'll give them to you. What about states?
Well, so that's where I think the Supreme Court decision yesterday misses the forest for the trees, because I do believe that the United States Constitution protects individuals from being compelled by government to undertake a medical procedure that they don't want to do. And that's if it was compelled by government, or if federal government, state government, or local government. But because the Supreme Court refuses to take on those bigger constitutional questions and only decided yesterday on a limited textual reading of the statute, we don't have further clarity. So that's going to remain unresolved, and unfortunately, it's going to leave states like New York or Maine able to continue forward with their policies.
Well, I got both of you, please take a bow. I don't think yesterday would have happened without people like you, and there were others as well, too many to mention, that challenged this. I said it on the day that Biden gave his mandate speech that this is not going to fly. I'm glad I turned out to be right. We appreciate it. Honorable Robert Henneke, thank you. Attorney General of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, thank you. Appreciate you joining us. Quick break, right back.